Welcome to Ox Tools. I'm Tom. So tonight we got a couple little things. This will be another little Meatloaf episode. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I did a little straightening on the bottle lift. Some of the weld distortion needed to be corrected, so I got a little segment on that. 6 or 8 minutes on that. Straightening some of the weld distortion from the big main weld across the bottom plate. So we'll show that. The other thing I got tonight is, I got started thinking about V-blocks the other day. We were talking about using V-blocks to index for 90 degrees by clamping them in the vise. And when I was thinking about this, when I was shooting the video, I was kind of going through my V-blocks that I have, and I got a pretty good collection of them. And each one kind of has a different use, and so I thought we'd talk about V-blocks a little bit tonight. Another viewer, a couple people have asked about the measuring with the step on the calipers, and we'll do a little thing on that. It's just like, it's 30 seconds and then everybody gets it. What else? What was the other thing? V-blocks, calipers. Oh, and a lot of people have been, there's a lot of stuff going on indexing on the web right now. John over at Double Boost, he built a beautiful little indexing head that fits on the cross slide of his lathe, which was really clever to do that. Now he can do direct indexing right on his lathe. So in essence, he's created a tooling slide, and this is the technical term for mounting different types of tooling to the cross feed on the lathe. So anyway, he built an indexing head to go on that. He went as far as to cast the body of the thing. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff going on in indexing. Don Cossett up in Oregon is doing some kind of odd indexing, 7 divisions, which is kind of an odd one. You don't see that too often. And then another viewer has kind of a large range indexing problem, 127 divisions, which is actually kind of a tricky one because you have to use compound indexing, and which most dividing heads are really not set up to do that. So how do you do it, right? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and that'll be probably a future video that we'll get into. So one of the things with that is what I'm thinking is that we'll do a build-along project where I start the thing, explain what we're going to do, and tell people what they need to get their hands on, and then we'll start a series of short videos where you can kind of build along, and at the end you end up with the thing. Okay, so anyway, we're going to maybe talk just a little bit about that. So let's. I already shot the flame straightening thing with the cart, so let's get into the V-blocks and let's check them out. Okay, so here's my vast array of V-blocks here, and anyway, I started rounding them up from all over the shop, and I realized I had quite a few of them, and each one is a little bit different and probably worth talking about just briefly. So these are the first ones that I think I ever bought for myself a long time ago. They're Brown and Sharps, and they have a small V and a large V, and then a clamp that you can slide along them. And the clamp is kind of a little bit too small, so it stays in place. And then you can lock something down on that. Just a small size, they're kind of handy. Nothing really remarkable about them. In particular, these are the number 1403s, Brown and Sharp. And I believe it was kind of a match set. I bought that from a guy in San Francisco, a little store that used to be there called Tools of the Trade. Anyway, that's where those came from, small ones. Now here's another little set of small ones here. These are Starrett's. I'm missing a clamp here on this. Now these are on a little guide rod here, which is kind of nice sometimes. It keeps them in line with one another. Or you can pop them apart, you know. You can pop them off the rod. And it has a little friction thing on the rod. And then it has a small side and a big side. Interestingly, these look like they've been done on a planer here. They have the characteristic ridging on there. I don't think those are ground. It's too coarse of a finish. Anyway, these are Starrett. What's the number on these? 271s. You can look those up on the web if you like the looks of those. I use these over on the welding table sometimes for small stuff, just because they have the connecting rods. So sometimes you can just lay two rods in there and connect it up and do your weld out in the middle there. So that's those guys there. And then this keeps them. This is just a little piece of plastic that just keeps them from rotating. Now here's a different style here. These are actually really nice ones. I like these. These are made by Taft Pierce, 9128. Oh, wait a second. Style 9128. Does that have the same style 9130? Okay. So these are 893Cs. I can't tell which one is the model number. Anyway, they're slightly different, and they have thumb screws with the locking element here. And depending on the diameter that you're clamping, you can flip this little thing over here, and you can actually clamp some pretty small stuff in there. That's kind of nice. Now the little overhang is kind of neat here too, because you can pin those down on the rotary table and do some weird stuff like that. You know, with strap clamps, you can pin them down, and they're square, well, or mostly square all the way around. So, well, most V-blocks are. So those just have a different style of clamp on there, and these will actually hold a pretty good diameter there. You know, if you put these on this way. And Taft Pierce is an old U.S. company. They make really nice stuff. Anyway, you can see that's a pretty big cylinder that can go in there. Okay, and then I have a pair of those. And these, yeah, anyway. Okay, so the next style here is, you know, I'm going to sit down here. I'm going to sit down. Okay. The next style, these are Brown and Sharps also here. And these are 750Bs. Catalog number 750Bs, and you know, these got some mass to them. I like these in the mill. They have a nice big V, and I actually have a second one here, and I've talked about this one before, and you can see that this one's shorter. Well, I cut, yeah, that's the side I cut off there, and this is the little piece that came off. In fact, you can see that's the piece that came off, so I cut it right through there, and now this is pretty close to the same height as the jaws and the Kurt. Anyway, I've talked about that before. Then I have the little leftover piece there. And that came out of a stray, unmatched set block of this style here. And then you can put the clamps on from the end, or you can insert the clamps here, and then you slide them sideways to lock them, and then you can crank down on that. Actually, come to think of it, I guess I don't use. Oops. I don't use the clamps that much for the general stuff that I do, but you know, in most of the time I do have the clamps for them. So that's a match set there, and so if you're looking for them, you know, try to get a match set. These may even have serial numbers on number 539, 539, yeah. So I think these are sold either individually or as a match set, and you know, your luck is probably good. These are well made, so if you buy one from a different set, those still going to be pretty good, and you can check them with an indicator and see. So that's that style here. Okay, so let's get those out of the way. So let's talk about these guys here. If I was going to restrict myself to one kind of V block, it would probably be this type here. These are Starrett's here, and I think they're 567s. And sometimes you see these. This is like an apprentice project where they make a V block like this, and it's got a couple of drilled and tapped holes. So you can do some kind of interesting stuff with these. These are really easy to hold down in the mill with a strap clamp because they have this step, and you can pin them down, or you can stand them up this way and you can pin them down here too on the mill table. So you can create a very long V block on the mill by clamping them like that or clamping them like that, and so kind of nice. And then you can roll them over on the side, obviously. And then the clamps are kind of interesting in that you can clamp something, and I'll turn it this way so you can see it, but the clamp, you can actually adjust these and adjust the roll here by cranking these screws here. You can do that, and you know that's the same thing up here. You can do that, and you can do a little adjusting with these. Although I can't think of ever using those cross screws, but it sure looks like a good idea. So anyway, I really like these, and most guys just have one of these. And the old Dutch toolmaker that I work with, he had a pair, and he used to use them in the pairs all the time. And so I made sure that I ended up with a pair of these. And yeah, I need to clean this one. This one hasn't been used in a while. Oh, it's just kind of dried coolant on there. So okay. So anyway, that's that Starrett 567. Those are pretty nice, and probably one of my favorite type of V blocks there. Okay. And then somewhere I ended up with an extra clamp, and I don't know where the extra clamp. Oh, you know what it was? I remember now. I loaned one of these blocks to some. That's what it was. I forgot about that. I loaned one of these blocks to somebody, and they were using it on the mill, and they smacked into my. That's right. They smacked into my clamp. I was really pissed off. They gouged the clamp, and so I made them buy me a new clamp, and so that's why that one looks so good. And then I think I found another one at the flea market, and I said, hey, well, you know, it's better to have a spare for a couple of bucks or whatever. Yeah, because this one's kind of chewed up here, and I'm pretty sure I got that one at the flea market. And the guy that crashed the one I had, he got to keep that one, the crashed one, and he's got no block to go with it. So tough luck there, Bucko. And I got a new one out of it. And I think the stupid clamp was fairly expensive. So anyway, it stung him a little bit. So he probably tells that story how the jerk Tom made me buy him a new clamp, and so anyway, that's the price he had to pay. So my rule is you can borrow my tools as long as you're still buying tools, and what that means is if you quit buying tools, that means you have everything that you need, so you have no need to borrow my tools. So that's the rule, right? You can borrow my tools as long as you're still buying tools. Okay, so the next one. Now we're moving up in size here. So the next one, these are Taft Pierce also. These are larger ones here, just for larger diameters. I don't have clamps for these. I bought these off eBay, I think, and they would have a similar clamp to this here, and it's something that's deep on the list to make some clamps for these. Or this is pretty popular stuff on eBay now, so. Pretty tough to get a deal anymore. I bought these quite a while ago, but when Taft Pierce was flying under the radar on the web, but now everybody's onto it, and they got these iPhones now, and they can look crap up on the web, and so everybody's getting top dollar for everything now. So it's okay. I don't knock a guy for getting what he can get, but. It takes the fun out of it. So, okay, so the next ones here, these have a little story behind them. These are made by a toolmaker friend of mine, not the Dutch guy. This is the guy that I used to work with, Charlie Blessing. And I don't know if I've talked about him very much. He was a very interesting guy. Let's get some little problem there. Anyway, he made these along with a lot of other things that I have. And he had a fantastic shop in his basement in South San Francisco. And anyway, these are probably A2 or D2 tool steel, and you know, ground up real nice. And this is kind of a cube here. This is nice on the surface grinder because he's got a bunch of holes in here, so you can bolt things to it, angle plates, or you can bolt a plate up or clamp a plate to it and grind one side of it, and you know it's perpendicular, or you can do rods and things like that. And he was big on lightning holes. He would put a lot of lightning holes and stuff just so, you know, it helps pick it up and take some of the weight out of the thing. So he was big on that. Anyway, these are real nice, and they got different V's all over them. Here's a little V here, a little tiny one there, a little step there. You know, and all those can be used like V blocks, and then a couple sizes there, and then just kind of random tapped holes all over it for clamping. Anyway, he made that, and this is kind of a, you know, has high sentimental value for me. So he's gone now. He died about, oh, I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. Nah, yeah, 8 years ago probably. And here's a big Mongo one that he did too. This thing weighs a ton. That's my biggest one, I think. There. Oh yeah, look, and there you can see he put his name in that. He built an engraving machine in his garage, and that's that engraving machine. It was a pantograph engraver, and he built it from nothing. And he also built a three-dimensional decal pantograph milling machine. And he just built this in his garage. This is what he liked to do. And I imagine, I'm not sure what happened to that pantograph, but it probably ended up in the scrap heap, or I don't know. Maybe somebody got it. I'm not sure. Let's get a little gouge in it there. A little spot that didn't clean up from his stock. So this is quintessential Charlie. So the block is beautiful. It's all ground and heat treated and just wonderful, right? Engraved nicely, etc., etc. And then here's the clamp. So it's still got frickin' Dykem on it, you know, from when he laid it out and he roughed it out. And it cracks me up because this was him, you know. He did this beautiful job on the block, right? And then the clamp is kind of a little rough here. I mean, look at the finish on that, right? You know, obviously he needed a clamp, you know, and he says, geez, I got to bang a clamp out. You know, he had to do a job or whatever. He probably spent a week working on this thing, and then, you know, he gets a half-hour clamp here. So anyway, it cracks me up, and I used to give him crap for this kind of stuff, and he says, yeah, who the hell's going to see it, right? You know, just you. And so anyway, it was kind of funny. That screw is kind of stuck. I guess it's bugging me now. I think I want to get that out of there. Let's see what's going on. Oh, okay. It's just beyond finger tight. Anyway, that's that. Run that up a little bit. Yeah. Well, actually, you know what? I think I'll just put that in like that. So that's the kind of machinist V blocks, and then here's some interesting ones here. Now this is kind of fabrication ones here, and you know, you guys can make these up. These are just 2x2 by 1/4 inch thick angle, so 50 millimeter by 50 millimeter by 6 millimeter. And they're just welded together, and you can put another, you know, that's a 90-degree angle there, so you can just put a block in there to hold it together when you tack it. And these are nice on the welding table. You see that one's got heat marks all over it. You don't worry about them too much, you know, and you just use them. So there's a couple of those, and these are easy to make up. You can make them up in different lengths, little skinny ones, little short ones, whatever. And for all, you know, one place I work, we used to end up with a lot of scraps of 2-inch angle that were kind of short pieces that just went in the scrap bin. And so, you know, if you have that situation where you are, you can make yourself some fabricator V-blocks there pretty easily. Okay, let's see, last thing, this is a real weirdo here. I just pull it out just to show folks here. And this was made by Charlie Blessing here, the guy that made these things. And this is a very peculiar grinding vise here. And he used a technique that I'll show someday on the mill for creating this spherical cavity here. And then he took a 2-inch ball bearing and annealed it and then milled it out. So now you can put things in here and you can swivel this around. And this is for use on the surface grinder, by the way, because this is one of those magnetic blocks that the flux comes through and locks everything down. And so anyway, you can swivel this thing around. For example, tool bits, lathe tool bits. You can put them in the surface grinder at some clearance angle, throw the magnet on, boom, it locks it, and bzz, 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 you know, you grind the relief angle, and then you can swing it around and grind another angle, and you know, do a bunch of stuff. So it's kind of an oddball thing. I've only used it a couple of times because it's kind of, I would call it like an eyeball tool a little bit. There's no references on this, so you have to put something in there like a sign bar or something like that, and clamp the sign bar and then indicate it, and then turn the magnet on, and then take the sign bar out and put the part in there, and then, you know, you kind of got to go two directions too. So it gets a little crazy lining this thing up, and so it's more for I just need an angle. You know, maybe you have to repeat that angle a couple of times on something, you know. But it's just a neat kind of clever thing that's worth showing. Okay, anyway, that's a tour of the V-block. And if you guys have any questions about it, throw them up on the comments, and I'll try to get them answered. Okay, so I don't remember who it was, but a couple people have asked me about they've seen me do this step measurement thing with the calipers here, like so. And anyway, they wanted a little close-up of that. So if you see on the back here, the moving part here, it has a little jaw extension there that's part of the ID thing here. Well, those end up flush. That's 0, 0 right there, okay? So there's a couple ways, you know, we can measure this step with a pair of calipers. So the kind of the traditional way is like this, right, where you do that. Well, this has got some problems because it's really easy to get it cocked like that, right? And so if you just need a quickie, you know, that's, you know, you can do it like that. But it's hard to tell when you're square with the world. You know, you can lay this on there, but it's pretty easy to get it off a little bit. So this has a broader contact surface. So if you lay that on there, and now I'm using that big, broad surface as a reference, now I can bring that up. Okay. And you can see that number is repeating pretty well. You know, I'm holding this down and holding it up against there nicely, right? All right. And if we do the same thing here, well, anyway, I think you guys get it. This is a little tiny little area to kind of keep flat, and this is a much broader area here, you know, for measuring. And you measure shallow little steps like that, okay? And, you know, it feels pretty good when it goes in there. It feels nice and clean and solid when it comes up there, and no wiggle. Anyway, so we're just measuring with this little step right there, like that. anyway, that's the caliper step measurement there. If you haven't tried it, try it. It works great for flat steps like this. This is obviously better for holes, and that's one nice thing about these 4-inch calipers here, is they don't have a blade that comes out of the bottom. They have a small diameter rod here that comes out of the bottom. So these are the calipers I've been reaching for years now, just because they're handier in tight spaces. A lot of your measurements are 4 inches or below, and they have this nice little rod that can go into some pretty tight little places. So anyway, that's that. Okay, so we're set up here. I'm using the forming table here, one of the slots in the forming table, and the chain, the jib crane. To get a little preload on this, what we want to do is induce a shrink along the opposite side of the weld here that's caused the distortion that's closed it up. So we're just going to use a standard oxyacetylene torch with a cutting tip, and the reason for the cutting tip is it has rapid, very small, narrow heating, as opposed to a plain heating tip, a rosebud type, that heats a broad area and just has a lot of BTUs. What we want to induce is a very, very narrow, very hot zone, much like an electric arc weld would be. So anyway, sure, you could just heat this up red hot and bend it too. This is a more elegant technique. This is old school flame straightening here. And you can straighten weldments and shafts and tubes and all kinds of stuff with this technique once you practice it. So I made a little mark. You probably can't see it under here. This is just for me as a guideline. And it's opposite this weld, this fillet weld on the other side that's caused a problem. I got a bucket of water down here with a rag, so I'm just going to run a single shrink along there and cool it off to get it to contract nicely. The idea is that we're producing a large gradient in a large heat gradient in a narrow area, just like a weld would do. So I've got I got a bit of tension on this. This will just kind of help things along. And let's go ahead and do it. Actually, let me get some different gloves here. Really only want one glove for this deal. All right. this. And ideally, you're doing this outside with a hose or something like that, where you can get a lot of water on it. But for little ones like this, a rag or actually I can use my spray bottle, although I don't think I want to put that much on here. You gotta be careful doing this on hot metal here, because the steam will give you a smart if you're not careful. You know, a long time ago, they used to straighten a lot of stuff this way, in particular in the shipyards and whatnot. The hull plates that had wrinkled from all the welding and situations like that. All right, that's getting cooler. I'm going to let it cool off on its own now. It's that initial part that you want to get below. Yeah, see the water starting to stay now for a little while. All right, so I'll just put the fan on it and let it cool off. And then we'll see how we did there. Okay, so we got this is cooled off now. I don't feel any heat in it anymore, and I got it up on the table. As soon as I put it up on the table, I could see that it was a lot closer to being perpendicular here. This weld here had really just kind of closed these two together, which is what you'd expect from a big weld like that. Let's just see where we're at here. So it's pretty good. But it's still a little bit this way. You know, I'm seeing, what am I seeing there? I don't know, it's less than a millimeter. I don't know, it's 15,000, something like that. Okay, that side's back a little bit. There's about a millimeter right here. So it's got a little twist to it. But it's fine for this. I'm not going to sweat it. It visually, it looks a lot better than it did before. And this, you know, when the bottle was on here, it wants to go this way too. So it was just making the whole thing, you know, kind of lean forward, which in general is okay, because that's where this support underneath is, right? But the center of gravity of the bottle is right along here, so it's kind of already doing that for you anyway. Anyway, that's just a short little demonstration of flame straightening. So we ran a shrink on the opposite side of the weld, because it pulls on the direction, the side that you heat from, just like this pulled here. So it's kind of like welding too, but you're counteracting the distortion from welding. So anyway, that's better now. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is indexing again. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on the web right now with indexing and dividing. A lot of people are real interested in that, and it's an interesting subject. Okay, so what I want to propose for you guys is that we do a follow-along project. Okay, so what I'm going to say is, everybody that wants to follow along with this project, get yourself one of these little 5C indexers. They're real cheap, okay? They're less than 50 bucks. They're 50 or $60, I think, for a decent one. If you catch one on sale, you can get it as low as $40 probably. Anyway, these do angular indexing in, I believe they'll do 1 degree increments. So we can get 360 divisions here. Even degree divisions, I should say, just with what it comes with. This index plate, which is every 10 degrees, and then it has a vernier here that's 0 through 9 degrees, so you can do individual degree increments. And this just takes a 5C collet, or if you're lucky enough to have one of those little 3-jaw chucks that's got a 5C shank on it, that goes in here, and then it's secured with this little draw tube. Now this one here, this one came from Charlie Blessing, and he was using it on his surface grinder. Oops! Oh, the pin's in. That's why it won't rotate. And he has a little V-belt here, and he's got a little timing belt. I think he probably tried the V-belt initially, and it didn't grab enough, and he put a timing belt on it. Anyway, so that he could grind cylindrical stuff on the surface grinder. It doesn't really matter for what we're doing. So everybody pick up one of these, and we're going to do a project where we can do direct indexing with any division. Now there's a practical limit, but mainly this is for those divisions that don't work in a regular dividing head very well. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify one of these and make our own index and pin shot pin arrangement so that we can basically create any index that we want, and it'll just be direct indexing. So this addresses one viewer's need to do 127 divisions, which is kind of an oddball and pretty difficult to do. So get one of these, and then we're going to build some stuff for this. It's not difficult stuff to build. You just need some scrap materials and one of these to start with as the kind of the donor body. And it's all reversible. It'll come off. You're not going to lose the functionality of this, so don't worry about that. Okay? Okay, so the last thing I want to show on indexing and dividing, this is a little a rotary table that I made, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. It's more than that, 15 years ago, something like that. And it's got a excuse me, got a hoarse throat here. So it's got a basically about a 4-inch tabletop here, 100 millimeters. All right, and the body's aluminum. This is stainless steel here, and there's the bottom. You can kind of see. And the interesting part about this is when I made it, I said, you know, I am sick of degrees, minutes, and seconds. And, you know, just the conversion and the, when you want to make multiple indexes, anyway, and besides, when I do calculations on my calculator, what does it spit out? It spits out decimal degrees, right? So I decided to graduate this one, the dial at least, in decimal degrees. And you can see here on the side that it's got degree marks all the way around it there. And then you can mount it vertical or horizontal, and it's got 2 scales on it there, okay? And this is a little vernier here. So this particular rotary table, I had a worm gear, and I said, yep, that'll work fine. So it's 9 let's get on a 0 index there. Something like that, right about there. I'll slide the ring over. All right. So it's 9 degrees per revolution, okay? And then each one of those degrees I'm going to do a little zoom action here so you can see that. So each one of those is divided into 10 parts. And then with the vernier, I can subdivide each one of those tenths of a degree into a hundredth of a degree. Okay? So those are pretty fine divisions. And anyway, it's direct right out of the calculator, and off you go. And so there's a tenth of a degree, and then there's a hundredth of a degree, there's 200ths of a degree, 300ths of a degree, etc., etc. And then this, the tabletop is tapped 1032, so I can use my my little strap clamps on the top, and then it's got a pilot hole in the center, and it even has a it even has a little nick in the tabletop there. So anyway, so that's just a different way of calibrating different kind of divisions on a rotary table that you don't see all the time. Anyway, just wanted to show that. Okay, that's all I got for this video. A little Meatloaf episode, bunch of little stuff. So those of you that want to follow along with the little indexer project, pick yourself up. If you don't have one, pick one up. Try Travers Tool, Enco, MSC. Any of these guys will have these things. Chances are that one of them will have it on sale, and you can bet that somebody will throw it up in the comments where the cheapest one is. And you know, you don't need to buy a fancy one. This is going to be a simple project, and you guys will have a little bit of fun. So after you see this video, whenever this video comes out, we'll start on this in we'll start the first installment will be in a week, probably after this video comes out. So we'll start working on that, and we'll just do a part or two per episode, and then we'll get this thing wrapped up. Anyway, see you soon, guys.